Okay, we got Joe loaded up. Here we go, everybody. Oh my God, yo, dude. Sid with a 25 over on Venmo. Appreciate you for that love, Sid. Sid says about her $200 donation, which once again, thank you, Sid. I'm sorry that the stream ended before I could thank you for that. Sid said, I basically just said how much I appreciate the community you've built, and even when the world feels icky, you, Parker, in this whole space always pulls me out of that headspace. Seriously, thank you for everything as always, Sid. You've been such an instrumental member of the community. I love and appreciate you so much. Everybody loves and appreciates you so much. Please give it up for Sid, y'all. Show some love to Sid down below. As well as Libby with the $5 on YouTube, on Venmo, saying, I tried to find Sid's comment in the super chat, but I can't see it now in the older lives. Well, don't worry, because she was able to come out here and repeat herself for us. So we appreciate you so much for doing that extra effort so I can make sure I saw your message. As well as Danielle, thank you so much for the $50 over on PayPal. Danielle, that is so incredibly kind of you. Show some love to Danielle down below. Danielle says, motherhood is the #1 reason why women fall into poverty, especially in countries that denies support, SNAP, Medicare, tax pursuit of child care for absent fathers, parental leave, etc. This guest is not pro-life, he's pro-birth. Yes, actually, Danielle, I remember that we used to talk about like that the pragmatic side of things, do that a lot more. And I think that we should get back around to doing that. That is, I think that's important to reference. Thank you so much for the much needed reminder of like what those empirical outcomes are and why they're so important to talk about. So thank you. Anyways, Joe, welcome in. Go to unmute that mic. I'd love to have a chat with you, brother.
Hey, what's up? Are we allowed to say words like AB? Are we gonna get censored if we say that?
Yeah, you could say abortion. I don't really want to talk about abortion.
Okay.
I've been talking about abortion like all day long. So
yeah, I'm not a huge fan of talking about abortion either. I do want to say one thing off topic though, is that Uncrustable is terrible for you.
Well,
and I might support Trump, but I'm not. I don't. It's not that I hate you. So
it has all my macros. It has all my micros and macros, bro. I eat Uncrustables and the crumble cookies for lunch every day.
The other thing too is that I saw your fitness photos. And this is off topic, but if you look into finasteride and minoxidil, it'll stop converting your DHT, and that should prevent any further hair loss. I'm 33, so I'm going through it right now.
I'm actually already on them.
Good. So then you already know. But also avoid things like SARMs, because I don't know why you're like, what, 20 years old?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you shouldn't be converting DHT that quickly, but maybe there's a sign of high testosterone. I don't know.
Anyways, man, take it away. Tell us why you support Trump.
I support Trump because while he might have what you might call trait levels of grandiose narcissism, at the very least he wants to be loved by the majority of people, and that indicates that he has a vested interest in doing what's best for the majority of Americans. And I see that in the policies that he takes. Whereas I don't see that on the left. I see kind of like this pop culture debating, and I see a lot of people who are saying what other people want them to say in order to profit, and kind of get donations.
I think that you just made a super big issue in your argument there. I think that he does have a desire to be loved. I don't think that necessarily implies that he has a... I don't think that necessarily implies that he has a vested interest in doing what's best for most people. I think that he just has a vested interest in convincing most people that he's doing what's best for them. And I think that it's much easier for him as a con man to deceive people into falsely supporting them on the basis of propaganda compared to actually doing what's best for them. Because doing what's best for like low-income Americans, doing what's best for like middle-class Americans, and like 9 out of 10 scenarios is not in the best interest of like the ruling elite, high-class income earners, right? And I think this is why maybe like I'll even give you an example of this. Like he passed that big, beautiful bill. He never talked about the fact that it cost nearly $4 trillion. He never talked about the fact that because of the cuts to Medicaid, SNAP, student free school lunches, energy, intellectuals in the arts, etc., that the Center on Budget Priorities tells us it's going to reduce the after-tax income of 50% of income earners. He only talks about like, oh, no tax on tips. You know what I mean? So he just tries to get everybody to ignore like the bad parts of this bill, deceiving them into believing that it's liberal propaganda and they don't even exist. And that is more so how he has been able to achieve such success and support, not actually by doing what's in the best interest of most people.
Well, just because I support Trump doesn't mean I support the big, beautiful bill. And I definitely don't support, indebting our country and future generations by money printing, infinite money. I disagree with that.
Right. I know. But I was just kind of giving an example of how he doesn't actually do what's best for the interest of the people. He just convinces people that
You're saying a lot. I like to respond piece by piece
My bad.
rather than you interrupting me at my first point. So that being said, going back to him being, quote unquote, a narcissist, again, you talked about the ruling class, and I think that's true. we can't say whether or not he's actually acting in our vested interest, right? But we know that's true for any politician across the board. And on the left and the Democratic side, we've seen a huge level of subservience to the corporate machine, right? And they take marching orders. Even the left side of the Supreme Court takes marching orders from the Chamber of Commerce, which is the basically top 100 most powerful corporations in our country. They write amicus briefs, and then you see in their judiciary opinions, they basically copy those. So that applies to both Republicans and Democrats. That being said, again, I see a lot of the people who make Trump their target of. Just let me make this one last point.
Okay.
People who despise Trump and they don't like him because he's a narcissist and they don't trust him because they think that he's acting in his own interest. I see this is true of most people. They see the characteristics in themselves that they don't like, and therefore they attack it. And there's a lot of covert and communal narcissists on the left that see that narcissism in Trump. And that's exactly because they recognize it and they recognize what he's doing. But at the same time, I would take an open crook, somebody who's grifting me in the open, rather than someone who's like a mega church preacher who's, they have sort of this ambiance or effective personality. And I'd say I kind of attribute it to you, Parker, and all the other left-leaning guys, because I know you were a Trump supporter 4 years ago. So I think really what you're trying to do is you're trying to profit. And I would challenge you to try to make the world a better place through personal responsibility and accountability and actions on a personal level. And I don't think what you're doing here is helpful because I think it increases divisiveness across the country. And I think it's very easy to talk down and around when you talk as quickly as you do to, a populace where a majority of people on both sides are uneducated.
I know that you were a Trump supporter when you were 16 years old, Dean. I know that you were MAGA when you were 16 years old, Dean. And because
I wasn't, and then how I supported Ron Paul.
What was that? It would allow, if you could just give me a second here to finish. And Dean, because...
But you can't tell me who I am.
And Dean, because...
You could ask me.
Listen, okay, now you're saying that I can't tell you who you are? Well, you just tried to tell me who I am. You tried to say because I was a Trump supporter 4 years ago that this must mean I have some hidden intention of deceit or grift that I want to hide today. So, I think
your donations prove that. You're personally profiting and you're taking advantage of your audience.
How am I taking advantage of my audience?
That Americans are suffering. They don't have a lot of money, and that they're donating it to a person like you. You probably make millions off of this. Let's be real. You don't need the donations. You certainly make more than the majority of Americans.
It'd be fun if I made millions.
But it'd be nice if you spent your time volunteering or actually going out and doing something rather than sitting on here and creating echo chambers.
Yeah. So, point number one, if you think that my lives are an echo chamber, you obviously are misled. I mean, look at what we're doing right now. Two people that disagree with one another talking. Point done. Puke over. Point number two. You're saying that I'm a grift because I accept donations for the work that I do. Think about it this way, man. For a typical exchange of monetary resources for good, commodity, entertainment services, etc., right? They would require payment in exchange for said goods. What do? I don't. Anybody could watch me. Anybody could tune into the live streams. Anybody could learn. But this is my job, and my full-time job, in fact. I have bills to pay. I want to keep a roof over my head. I want to keep dinner on the table. So I say, hey, you don't have to support me. But if you want to, you can find my Venmo, my PayPal, and the link tree in my bio. And I don't think the fact that I accept donations proves me to be a grifter, disingenuous, scam artist, etc. Because we also have to explore exactly what it means to be a grifter. To be a grifter makes this implication that you're falsely representing yourself for monetary gain. I don't falsely represent myself for monetary gain. There is not a single fact that I share, an argument that I make that I don't believe in. And honestly, if you've watched my streams often, you'll know that the arguments I make are nearly impenetrable. I have done so much research to substantiate what I believe in. I have heard nearly every single counter-argument to every single one of my beliefs. I've been doing these 4-hour debate streams 7 days a week for the damn near last 2 years. So, one thing that I know is every single possible counter-argument against everything I believe in. And if there comes a counter-argument along that simply does refute what I believe, and then I change my mind. So if you're telling me that I don't genuinely believe in what I say, even though what I say a lot of the time is irrefutable positions backed by fact, reason, and logic, you're basically calling me evil. How evil would somebody have to be in order to see the truth right in front of them, have access to literally every single resource to justify that it's true, and every single counter rebuttal to test its consistency, and willingly choose not to believe it? Have you ever thought about that? How
I have
just
thought about
pure
that.
evil
Hey,
I
let
would
me
have
respond.
to be in order to not believe in what I say? And one last point here before I pass the mic back to you. I think a lot of this is rooted in jealousy, Joe. Now, I get it. Jealousy is a normal human experience. We all experience jealousy. In fact, I mean, I remember times in my youth where I was jealous because I saw people that were doing better than I was, that were around my same age or older, right? But like the mature thing to do is to attempt to deal with that jealousy in a productive manner. Maybe use that to fuel your own drive and not come on live in front of 11,000 people and make an embarrassment out of yourself in a space that is supposed to be reserved for intellectual discourse on politics.
So first off, I'm not jealous, and I don't feel any need to defend that because it's simply not true. Second point is that what did you just say? You made a huge, very sweeping claim, and you said that I said you were evil, which I didn't say. I didn't say that at all, and I don't believe in good or evil. So that's a huge assumption that you're making. Following that, you also said that all of your arguments have been presented with counter arguments, every possible one. That's both grandiose and illogical, because I can think of several. And I've watched your lives and I've seen the caliber of people you have come up. You know that half of human beings are below average intelligence. You're not debating people of high caliber, and you're not being presented with counter arguments. But again, I don't see how what you're doing is any different than a megachurch pastor, and I don't see how it's any different than what Trump is doing, because you have a vested interest in gaining the most views. This is called outrage media. So you're going to do what's going to get you the most popularity. And the fact that you're taking donations shows that you have that interest. And it does indicate that you are showing high levels of your own trait narcissism. And you have the effect of a megachurch pastor. You know that. I'm telling you that right now. You have the blonde hair, blue eyes, the smile. I know people just like you. I've met them in my life. You don't know anything about me, but you could ask
Blonde
me.
hair, blue
You
eyes,
could show some
smile?
cognitive. You should show some cognitive empathy, and if you wanted to know about my life, I could tell you, and then maybe you could make some, proper assessments of who I am.
Well, I mean, he's
but you have a lot more.
He's basically calling white men evil.
You have a lot more. I don't believe in good or evil. There's a lot more public information about you.
What an
there
argument to
than
come
me.
from somebody on the right. What an argument to come from somebody on the right. Okay, listen. So you're telling me that I have like a vested interest in getting as many views as possible because of outrage media and the impact that would have on the algorithm of any content creator. You know what? Instead of me giving you my thoughts about how I deal with the algorithmic incentive of creating outrage media, I'm actually going to go ahead and direct you to YouTube, where I want you to type in Dean Withers Aspen Institutes of Ideas, where I took a day or two off unpaid to travel to Aspen, Colorado to speak on a live panel about how I deal with the algorithmic incentive for the production of outrage media and how it's something that I don't attempt to engage in, and I try to stay truth apt and oriented. So I mean that's definitely something that you could do. I feel like that would be great. And real quick, before we hop into the next subject, there's a couple people that I want to thank real quick. Like Paul, thank you for the $50 over on YouTube Super Chat. Here's some money so you could become one of the top 100 companies and control the Chamber of Commerce and thus run the country and make things better. Yo, let's go, Paul. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and put that in the Grift Slush Fund. I might use that to buy some A5 Wagyu steak on a private jet with $1 million in my Coach duffel bag. Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Everybody show some love to Paul down below. As well as Rainy. Thank you for the $50 over on Venmo. Thank you so much, Rainy. Everybody show some love to Rainy down below. Thank you, Rainy. Show some love to Rainy. Thank you for the $50 as well. Rainy says, love watching insecure and jealous men embarrass themselves on your live day after day. Man, I don't even know what I did to cause it, man. I wanted to debate Joe on politics. He came up here. He was talking about
Let's
the
back to
food I
politics.
eat and like DHT production. I thought we were having a good chat. Next thing I know, he's talking about how I'm a grifter, and it's unreal. But thank you for the $50, Rainy. Everybody show some love to Rainy. And then also, oh my God, Beth! Oh my goodness, Beth with the $100 donation. I want to see 1,000 W Beths in the live stream comment section right now. Beth said, please stop taking advantage of me by educating thousands and thousands of people. Beth, I'm so sorry for taking advantage of you. I'm so sorry, Beth. Thank you for the $100 donation. That is so incredibly kind of you. As well as Richard with with the $10. Thank you so much for the love. I really appreciate you for the love, Richard. Then Bree with the $10 on Venmo saying, Dean, stop stealing my money that I'm willingly donated to you. Bree, I'm so sorry for stealing the money from you. That is my bad. It is my bad, Bree. As well as ALOY with the $20 donation over on PayPal saying, love you, Dean. I love you too. Thank you so much. And then Owen with the $15 over on PayPal saying that even this guy's insults have contradictions in them. You want to be surprised. Thank you for the love, Owen. And then also Wesley, thank you so much for the $15 over on PayPal. Ashley with the $10 over on PayPal. Thank you all so very much for the love. As well as Gabby LA for the $10. Thank you so much for the love. I appreciate you guys so much. I really do appreciate everyone so much for your kindness and love and the generosity. You guys have been so incredibly kind today. And guys, thank you so much. Now, once again, I mean, in a sentence or less, if you want to kind of like wrap it up here.
So let's transition back to politics.
Okay.
Let's transition back to politics. But I do recognize everything you're saying is the offense of what I've already argued. That being said, let's not talking about abortion because I don't have a strong view on abortion. I'm not a woman. But let's use it as a corollary.
That's why you support Trump.
Let's use that as a corollary because I think that him actually. One instance is in the case of abortion where it's been devolved to state courts. I think that's perfectly in line with our Constitution and our system. I think it's a very good thing because human systems are inherently hierarchical. And when you have a winner-takes-all system and it's determined by the federal government what local laws concerning abortion is, it allows there to be basically a system that doesn't actually operate for everybody. And we have our system. No, this is what the founding fathers argued, and it's based on Plato's Republic. It's the idea that we have independent polises and communities based around certain values, because if there is a strong man or a would-be king or somebody who came into power, sure, you can have a philosopher king who's meant, who has good intentions for people, but even when that person leaves, if you have that sort of winner-takes-all system, then it'll eventually become dominated by totalitarians and authoritarians. So that's exactly why we have the federal cake system that we have, and that's exactly why we have states in order to have, locally appropriate laws. That's the entire foundation of our system.
So what you're describing, this winner takes all scenario where we have an enforced federal law for the total jurisdiction of the country, is exactly what the Union did when they won the Civil War.
That's actually not the case. That the fight was over two different things. It was over states' rights for slavery, and it's also whether or not our state has a right to secede or not. And you'll see a shift in, you say the Union, but the Union was is an alliance of northern states, and the precursor to that was the Hartford Convention. And during the War of 1812, they actually supported secession. And this is the same group of people that opposed it during the Union. So no, that was not their goal, and that was not adjudicated. You can't have a legal precedent adjudicated through victory through war.
Okay, so I said that the goal of the Union was to enforce and have federal legislation that applied to all constituents of the country. That was a goal in the sense of not wanting to allow states the ability to legalize slavery, right?
You're misconstruing legal terms because it has nothing to do with legislation.
I'm not really using legal terms.
It was a question of, if anything, it was a question of executive privilege and whether or not legislation as well as codified rights and those that were uncodified can be impeded for a national interest by the executive through things like the executive order and military action, as well as martial law.
So do you think that you agreed with the Confederacy?
If that's the conclusion you're drawing, you're not actually listening to what I'm saying.
It wasn't a conclusion, it was a question.
No, I do not agree with the Confederacy. I think that
so I just
entire basis.
You do think?
I think the entire basis of the United States is a union that we've all opted into, and once we've opted into a union, it's no different than perhaps what is ethical in a marriage.
Check this shit out.
Which is to stay committed.
Check this shit out. I think that the winner should take all, or we should have federal protections for human rights, right? And I think that it's a human rights violation to infringe upon a woman's bodily autonomy without good reason. And I think that
that's not a codified right. We have codified rights, and they are federally protected. And those are codified in the Bill of Rights, and those are also codified in judicial precedent.
Well, I'm not giving you a legal argument. I'm not giving you a legal argument. I'm giving you a moral argument.
So you're switching back and forth based on based on what's convenient for you, because you were positing a legal argument earlier.
What
now
legal
you're switching to a
argument was
question
I
of
positing?
ethics. But
No,
I'm
can
gonna
I
have
can I
the
ask you to
conclu-
quickly repeat in like 2 sentences or less for the legal argument that I was positing? Because I think that you were just likely
you were
misunderstand. 1 second, Joe. I think that you were likely misunderstanding what I was saying because I've always upheld the same exact argument for why I think that abortion should be protected at the federal level. So I think that you were misunderstanding what I had said earlier. If I said anything earlier to explain why you're now saying that I'm switching between a legal argument and a moral argument. So just to clarify, the moral argument that you're saying I'm switching to is a moral argument surrounding what are human rights and should human rights be protected for the most people possible. So what was the legal argument that I gave earlier that I'm now equivocating to as a moral argument?
So you need to reframe that argument if you want to be more clear. But the way what you said was
I'm not asking.
that it
So
was
so I can give you more
what you
clarity
said.
on my
Hold
moral
on, hold
argument,
on.
but I'm
You
asking you
can't
to describe the legal argument I
you
gave
can't
you.
interrupt me. You can't interrupt me while I'm talking because I can't get out a full idea. Okay.
Well, I just want to make sure that you're
these are
answering the
complex.
question.
These are well. I'll answer the question, but I also want to say that you just said that a winner takes all system is good, and we can recognize that ethics are very subjective. Some people might say that it's okay to murder you. It doesn't make. I don't know if I'm allowed to say murder on TikTok. Unalive you. It doesn't make it okay. And when you have a winner,
I didn't say that a winner takes all scenarios good. I said that human
anybody
rights
who
should be
gets
protected at the
power
federal
can
level.
apply their ethics, their subjective ethics. So you don't want a winner takes all system because that's autocratic and that's actually fascist. That's the basis of fascism
Okay.
is paternalism based on a winner take.
I'm now muting you because you're misunderstanding what I said. I just said that human rights should be protected at the federal level. And once again, you're still not answering the question because the question that I asked you is what was a legal argument that I gave you earlier that I'm now equivocating to and in between with a moral argument?
Legal rights are already protected by the federal government. And what you said was that the Civil War was fought over whether or not the federal government had the right to make legislation and protect rights, which was already ruled on. That's been ruled on since the beginning
okay.
of. That's been ruled on since Marbury versus Madison.
There is a misunderstanding. So I think that you're more focused on like listening to talk, like not listening to listen. So what I'll ask you,
I'm
now,
listening to everything you're saying.
So
I don't
you
know if
asked
you're
me not to
communicating
interrupt you, but
effectively.
you could interrupt me. I think that's quite a hypocritical double standard. So now I'm going to start interrupting you too.
Go ahead.
So anyways, I'm going to go back to what I was saying. So no, my argument for
Let's just not tell
now
each
you're
other
back
what
to
we're
a second
saying because you're
interruption.
changing what.
Now you have a mute on you, Joe. I understand that it is very typical.
Don't tell me.
Very
Don't tell me
flustered.
I'm saying
There's your
things I'm
third-
not saying.
There's your third interruption. That's really funny coming from the man that said I was attempting to tell you that I do believe that a winner takes all situation is good. So I don't think that you have any ground to say don't tell me what I was saying when that's not what I was saying. But I'd also like to clarify, Joe, I've not superimposed any view on top of yourself. I've not spoken for you, and I've not put in words in your mouth. Because this whole time, I've actually been trying to tell you what I think, what I feel, how I think things should be. Right? So I've actually not been interpreting any argument that you've made because you really haven't made an argument. But now I'm going to go back to what I was saying, Joe, and I'm going to ask you argument. I'm going to ask you to please listen to me. I think that would be great. So
this is all being recorded, so everything you said will be recorded. You have to realize that. So changing it down doesn't matter. And I did make an argument. My argument was
always recorded.
My
Joe, you can't interrupt
my argument
anybody.
was the devolution of power is a good thing.
Thank you so much. I
Trump
think
is doing
that I'm going to have you stop talking here so I could finish speaking, Joe. That's how conversations work. They're a two-way street. I understand that, part of human nature is to get flustered when in the wrong. I mean, we were talking about this at length around 30 minutes ago. I don't know if you were here for that or not. One quick announcement that I just want to give to you and everybody else that likes to come up onto these live streams is I just want to point out real quick that being wrong is not an ending point. It's not the finish line. It's not the stop. Being wrong is a point of opportunity where you could explore greater truth. So now that you're getting flustered because you think that I may be proving you wrong, I'm just going to ask you to drop it, right? Expose yourself and be willing to
I have the same message for
dialogue. Yeah, that applies
okay
to me.
It's okay that
me and everybody else. But now I'm going to go back to the argument.
So it's good you're telling yourself that.
I'm going to go... Oh, okay. All right, Joe. I'm going to go back to the argument that I gave you. Very simple. I think that human rights should be protected by the federal government. I think it is a human rights violation to infringe upon anybody's bodily autonomy without good reason. I don't think that there's any good reason to implement abortion bans infringing upon a woman's practical bodily autonomy. For that reason, I see it as a human rights violation. And because I see it as a human rights violation, and I believe that human rights should be protected by the federal government, I think that women and girls' access to abortion should also, in turn, be protected by the federal government.
There is no enumerated right to have a proactive medical service conducted upon you as a point of bodily autonomy. That does not exist in the Bill of Rights, and that exists in no judicial precedent. And if you're arguing that that should exist, then it has to be created in an amendment. But it doesn't currently exist underneath our system. So, and I would encourage you to practice some philosophical and intellectual honesty and apply that to other areas, including whether or not there should have been a mandatory COVID shot, as well as to the right to bear arms, the right to freedom of speech, even in cases where it might be discriminatory against another human being, which I don't personally support. But if we're going to make that argument, then we have to also say that that's the case with all these other enumerated rights, because you're talking about rights that aren't actually even enumerated.
All right, phenomenal. So you gave me two separate responses. The first response that you gave me was, well, Dean, that's not an enumerated right. And the second response you gave me was, well, I'm sure I could bring up a bunch of different scenarios where in order to maintain consistency upon your beliefs, you'd also have to hold to particular conclusions within these other senses. So we could go through those other senses. Once I'm able to describe my position, you could happily try to make like a counter argument to show that in order for me to maintain logical consistency, I also have to believe in like mandatory or like non-mandatory vaccine shots. You could make that argument if you want. That's fine. But obviously you haven't made it yet, so you can't just draw the conclusion without making the argument. Now I'm going to respond to the first part of your statement, where I told you that human rights should be protected at the federal level. I think that infringing upon somebody's human right without good reason is a human rights violation. And I think that's what's happening to women in the context of access to abortion. So you're right. That's not an enumerated right. In fact, that was what the Dobbs decision was, that the 14th Amendment and protections to privacy did not grant an enumerated or non-enumerated right to access abortion for women. I'm not making a legal argument, though, because I don't believe that we define human rights through a legal lens. I don't think that legality should inform us of what human rights are or are not. Think about it this way, right? Like in Germany in the 1920s, I think that people had a human right to life, even if they're Jewish. The legal system in Germany at the time disagreed. I don't think that changed that fact. Or like Latin America, in some states, 16-year-olds have the legal right to consent to sex. Okay. Well, I don't think that they actually can consent just because the law says so. And basically what this amounts to is the fact that I'm making a normative claim, an argument of what should be the case. Right? And I'm not defining a human right based upon what the law says. I'm defining human rights based upon what my normative framework of morality would say, right? So, in other words, I'm saying that it should be considered a legal human right. And that's why I advocate for said federal protections.
No, what you're saying is that your body of ethics is somehow superior to another person's body of ethics. And because the fact that what you're arguing are rights are not enumerated, that suggests that basically what you think is right somehow should be the illegal equivalent of right. And that's a very, very dangerous position to be taking, because just because you believe that your way of thinking is right and your judgment on ethics is right, you have to realize that if we apply that same standard and we allow anybody who basically has a different conception of rights than you to take power, and they do exactly what you're talking about doing, which is enforcing your system of ethics on others, because not everybody does believe that that right to bodily autonomy exists, in the same way that not everyone believes that human fetuses have the right to live, right? But that's another body of ethics, and they would argue the exact same thing. What I see is two groups of people who are both trying to externalize and enforce their, and I don't support a blanket ban on abortion.
Check this out.
I don't support a blanket ban on gay marriage. I think that's all ridiculous. But I see the exact same psychological mirroring on both sides.
Joe, I got something for you.
It's autocratic.
I got something for you to check out. Are you ready? Do you think that murder should be illegal on the federal level?
I think that murder is illegal on the federal level, but I also understand that there's different. I also understand that there's different statutory definitions of murder, and we could take.
That's not what I asked you. Let's give you a very
sociological. We could take a sociological interpretation of murder.
Very nice words, but that's not what I asked you.
Manslaughter.
Should me ripping off your grandma's head be illegal on the federal level? Do you think that me ripping off your grandma's head, should that be illegal on the federal level?
I think so, and I think that's almost universally accepted.
Watch this out. Watch this out. Watch this out. No. 1 second.
They're not.
1 second. Why? Why do you think that should be illegal on the federal level?
Personally, for me, because I think that is a violation of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, or pursuit of property, depending on which philosophy you're referencing.
So in other words, are you saying that a violation of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is wrong, and that's why it should be illegal?
I'm saying that is statutorily and judicially the precedent. I'm not saying whether or not it should be or not, because there is another person out there who would say that.
Okay, then you're not answering my
question.
Hold on,
there is
I'm actually not going to hold on. I'm going to mute you because
there is another.
No. You just made it clear. You just made it clear that you weren't answering my question, because my question was, do you think this should be illegal on the federal level? And then in your response, you literally said, and I quote, I'm not saying if this should be the case or shouldn't be the case. So, I'm going to mute you because you're not answering my question. And you admitted that you weren't answering my question when you said, I'm not saying that it should or shouldn't be. Okay, well, say it. Should that be illegal on the federal level? Yes or no?
I personally think that it should be illegal. I do not think that my system of ethics should be applied and made the blanket law of the land.
Okay.
That's the difference between me.
So you're saying you personally think that should.
Another
I'm not going to allow you to gish gallop. I'm not going to allow you to gish gallop this. These are simple questions.
You're getting heated. You're crashing out.
You're crashing out. I'm actually not getting heated. I'm being assertive so we could try to follow a line of logic.
No,
here.
you're crashing.
So I'm not crashing out. I'm being assertive because I want you to follow the argument.
You're being passive aggressive.
I'm not even trying to be passive aggressive. I'm just trying to put like the guardrails up on the bowling alley lane to get you to follow and
You're
track
trying to control the conversation because you can't
make one
benefit
point
from long form debate.
I'm trying to benefit
because you can't have you're not communicating complex ideas.
Well, you're equivocating between long form complex debate and gish galloping. So I don't want you to gish gallop. All I want you to tell us is you did just inform us all that you think it should be illegal to rip grandma's heads off on the federal levels. Okay, why do you think that should be illegal?
Great use of Darvo. Way to reframe what you're doing as what I'm doing. And I think
calling me a narcissist is not answering my question.
There's times where ripping a person's grandma's head off is legal. There's times where it's self-defense. There's times where you have psychotic episodes, and it's actually not ruled to be murder. So again, that's a gray area. That's actually not a.
Okay, then we'll make it even more clear.
And any jurisdiction, including federal.
Tell me why you think it should be illegal on the federal level to rip a grandma's head off outside of a psychotic episode, not defending yourself. Why should that be illegal?
Maybe she's in an accident and you have to conduct an emergency surgery and you're trying to render aid and you accidentally do it.
So we're going to use the term unjustifiably to account for all of these scenarios where it can seemingly be justified. Watch this. Why do you think it should be illegal to unjustifiably rip grandmothers' heads off on the federal level?
I didn't use that term, and that's not a legal term that I'm gonna fall into because
not a legal term.
You have to. The entire purpose of the legal system is to find the most just outcome. So you can't use this. The term justice does not exist under the letter of law. There's no such thing as. You could use something like unjust enrichment, but there's no codified.
Sorry, I muted you because you're not answering
Justice
my question.
is adjudicated through the courts.
Okay, check this out.
I don't think you understand the legal system enough to be having this conversation.
Check this out. I think my understandings are perfectly clear, as well as the understandings of everybody else watching this live. Watch this, okay? Everybody, this is going to be cool. Should torturing newborn babies be federally illegal? Yes or no?
I think it should be, and I think it is. But I don't think that what I think should be the case has to be the law of the land.
Question.
That's the difference between me and you.
Question. So I asked the question, do you think that torturing babies should be illegal at the federal level? You said yes. You said yes, you do think that. So now in 3 sentences or less, tell us why you think torturing babies should be illegal at the federal level.
You're not listening to me because I've made 2 different points. I said that on a personal and ethical level, it should be. The second point is I don't think that my system of ethics should be winner takes all and it should be one size fits all. And that's exactly what you're advocating.
Okay.
So answer that point. Stop focusing on half.
So then you're not answering the question. Because remember,
focusing on half the clock.
I'm asking
because you're trying to pull me into a cyclical tangent that I don't want to participate in. So
you don't want to participate in telling us.
You're not.
Watch this, Joe. So remember, the question I asked you is
being manipulative.
The question I asked you is why do you think it should be federally illegal to torture babies? Okay, right? Now the reason why you are calling me manipulative for asking
you asked is if it should be.
The reason you are calling me
it should be.
Yes, why that? If you think that should be federally illegal,
you just changed.
Right. That is the question I asked you. Now the reason that you are calling me manipulative for me asking
changing
you
your
this
question.
The reason that you're calling me this for asking you this question. The reason that you're calling this a tangent when I'm asking you this question is because you know the answer to the question, why should it be federally illegal to torture babies, is that that's wrong. Right? And if we explore, you think it's wrong, that's going to be in relation to, right, whatever your normative ethical / moral claims, principles, etc. would be. And you know, if you admit that, then you're going to be refuting this argument that you've been attempting to make, that it's somehow fascist and wrong to want to vote for and enforce legislation on the basis of personal ethical beliefs. Right?
So you're misconstruing.
So in other words,
Misconstrued.
obvious answer to my question,
You've misconstrued.
why you think that torturing babies should be federally illegal, completely refutes, disputes, and dismantles the argument that you've been trying to make.
You're giving me a
since the
narcissistic
moment-
double blind. You're
since
giving
the
me a yes
moment
or no
that
question.
you've
That's not a
joined.
yes or no answer
Since
because
the
there's
moment-
different degrees of what's wrong.
Okay, no, I didn't even give you a yes or no answer.
For
One
instance,
second,
murder
Joe, let me finish
is
speaking.
more wrong.
He's doing the crash out.
You keep interrupting me. You're not letting. Let me get out a full sentence.
No, because you interrupted me to try
How
to
you
get
know
in a
I'm
full
winning?
sentence.
This is how you know you're losing.
Right. Sorry, the rage bait doesn't work on me anymore, man. I've been doing this for 2 years. It's just like I hear it all day.
One's rage baiting you. No one's rage baiting you. I'm trying to have an honest discussion. You're not actually listening to what I'm saying.
All right. Let me know, man. Because I'll still.
You're offering me.
All right. We're gonna wait for him. By the way, guys, this is just the assertion of a boundary. I was in the middle of a sentence. He cut me
You're
off.
turning on my mic. No, what you're doing is you're intentionally eliciting a reaction and then you're interrupting.
Buddy.
You're muting me as I.
Yes, I'm still muting you.
It's
because you're still
narcissist.
trying to interrupt the sentence. I was in the middle of.
Manipulative.
Yeah, we know, buddy.
You're losing hard, buddy.
Yeah. Just let me know, because like I said, I was in the middle of a sentence. You cut me off. Like regardless of how you want to attempt to justify you interrupting me, like ultimately speaking, I'm not gonna let you do that.
Want me to walk on eggshells? Only you're allowed to speak, and only you're allowed to tell us when to speak.
No,
that
we're
right
both
there is
allowed-
manipulative.
We're both allowed to speak, but hopefully we could both agree that we're not going to interrupt each other while we speak. I still want to finish the sentence I was in the middle of. Like, if you want to further the conversation, you're going to have to let me finish my sentence. Great.
Can't wait for the video of this to get posted.
I mean, it's already posted and being broadcasted live on YouTube. All right. We found ourselves to a point where you're no longer interrupting me. I'm going to go back to what I said. If you guys watching want to hear Joe speak, well, then he has to finish let me speaking first. Right? Like, obviously, regardless of how Joe wants to frame it, regardless of the things that Joe wants to call me, I was in the middle of a sentence, and Joe interrupted the middle of that sentence because he didn't like what I was saying because it made him look bad. And no, I will refuse to allow somebody to speak when they want to kick me out, they want to interrupt me and stop my speech. All right? Now I'm going to go back to what I was saying. As soon as I'm done, you're more than welcome to speak. This is an inviting environment where differing opinions are supposed to meet and converse. So as soon as I'm done, you could take it away. Okay? But I'm going to finish. It's going to be super quick. We're just going to recap what just happened. You're trying to make an argument that it's somehow wrong to say that we could use our morals to dictate what we think the law should be. I refuted that position of yours by pointing out a very simple question that I asked you. I asked you the question, do you think it should be federally illegal to torture babies? You said, yes, Dean. Joe said, yes, Dean, I do think that should be federally illegal. Then Dean asked Joe this following question. I asked you, why do you think it should be federally illegal to torture babies? You started crashing out. When I asked you that question, you called the question manipulative. You called me a narcissist. But once again, now the reason why you won't answer that question is because you know the answer is because you think it's wrong. But if you ultimately say that you think it should be federally illegal to torture babies because you think it's wrong, you are contradicting the notion that you have suggested prior, saying that we can't use our moral beliefs to impose legislation. But the basis of the imposition of legislation would be on some some conservative morality, at least for a certain set of laws. Now that we've gotten to that point, feel free to respond to these culmination of facts. I just want to point something out for the viewers of this conversation. The one thing Joe will not address is why he thinks it should be federally illegal to torture babies. Joe will do anything but address that question. Joe will never give us a concise response to that question. I'm telling you that with certainty. Now, Joe, take it away. But everybody, listen close to what Joe has to say, because he will not tell us why He will not tell us why he thinks it should be federally illegal to torture babies. He will not tell us why.
So
he thinks that.
you just monologued for 3 minutes and 15 seconds. So let's see if we can go without you interrupting me or without you muting me for 3 minutes and 15 seconds, right? So rather than telling me what I'm saying and telling me what I think, you should listen to what I say and what I think. And the question you asked is whether or not I thought it should be. Now you're changing it to whether or not I thought it, why it should be. And you're giving me narcissistic double binds because you're trying to take me down a train of thought that I'm not having. Because again, I think it's wrong. I don't think that my ethics and my body of ethics should be applied universally to everyone because I recognize that there's a difference in ethics between person to person. Okay. The other thing is that essentially, hold on, I lost my train of thought. What was that last point you made?
Yeah. The last point I made is why do you think it should be illegal to torture babies?
I think ethically, I think it's wrong. I think that it's wrong to hurt somebody who's defenseless. And I think it's wrong to dominate somebody who's defenseless. But I think that there's a huge difference. So there's degrees of wrong. Okay. So murdering someone in first degree is more wrong than manslaughter or negligently murdering somebody. So as far as torturing a baby, I see that as a huge individual evil. But I think having a blanket of law that is universally applied, like for instance, banning or legalizing abortion at a federal level so that there's not that individual decision making, I see that as a greater degree of evil than even torturing babies. Because let's say that there is a group that advocates torturing babies, and let's say they take over the political system, and let's say that they take over the judiciary, then by your train of thought that this thing should be federally adjudicated and established in precedent, then you're saying that because might is right, and because they've taken power, they can apply their body of ethics. That's my answer. And it's more complex than your simple yes or no, or you positing trying to force me into a tangent, which these are all manipulative strategies in conversation, and they're duplicitous. And I'm not calling you a narcissist. What I'm saying is I'm describing your characteristics and your actions that you're taking. I'm describing those as narcissistic manipulative. So if you could avoid doing that, and if you avoid trying to reframe and telling me what I'm saying, then I'm not going to have a problem with you. But what you're doing right now is we can't have a discussion because rather than listening to me, you're responding to points I've never made. Thank you.
Okay. Phenomenal, Joe. So I think it's funny that you ended off that statement by saying, I'm responding to points that you never made, when you just made the largest equivocation I've probably ever witnessed a guest make on this live since I started doing these live streams. So I said that torturing babies should be federally illegal because it's wrong to torture babies. And then you to your logic, you'd be okay with legalizing a baby torture on the federal level because you think it should be adjudicated on the federal level. Actually, no. I wouldn't say that I would support legalizing baby torture on the federal level. Why? Because I think it's wrong to torture babies. Second point, you agreed with me. You finally answered the question that the reason you think it should be federally illegal to torture babies is because you think it's wrong. And then in the next breath, you went on to say that you don't agree with the universal imposition of laws and which are true for all constituents of the country or something similar to that. You use your own words. Isn't that exactly what you're saying? Isn't that exactly what we're both saying? Isn't that exactly what anyone with a brain would say? I think you, me, and everybody watching this conversation has agreed that it is not wrong to universally impose codified legislation on the federal level to ban torturing babies in America. And both you and me agree reasons why we should impose this federal law to criminalize torturing babies is because we think it's wrong. What does this mean? Both you and me agree if we think something is wrong, like torturing babies, super bad human rights violation, we're okay with banning that on the federal level.
Okay, so that's another 2 minutes, 30 seconds. So let's see if I can actually respond. So again, torturing babies, you understand that the entire opposition to your point, the people who think that abortion should be illegal because it's murder, they would argue that abortion is a form of torturing babies. So, okay, maybe everybody agrees with you. Torturing babies is wrong, but their idea of what torturing babies is different, right? You understand that?
And that's where
so you can use your didn't let me even finish. You've already interrupted me. It's been 30 seconds. So you're accusing me of interrupting you, but you're the one doing it, and you're causing that. That's how that energy is starting. I should have held
off on that comment.
That's how this energy is starting because you're muting me and you're interrupting me. And then you're reframing and you're changing what I'm saying to elicit response because I don't want you to misspeak for me. So I can't even remember where I was at in my train of thought. Oh, right. So yeah, we can all agree that torturing babies is wrong, but you understand that other people are going to have definitions different than what you believe is torture. So you could be arguing in favor that abortion should be banned on a federal level because you believe torturing babies is wrong. Because again, that's not a legal definition. There's no statutory guidance. And if we're just basing it on subjective ethics, it can be misapplied in a way that you don't want, which is why we don't have it adjudicated at a federal level and established by precedents.
We have you and both me have now agreed that it is okay to use our subjective ethics to advocate for criminal legislation. Thank you. That's a concession I
do not believe that.
Okay.
I don't
wait.
that.
So if the basis...
if that's what you heard, you haven't listened to what I've said.
Okay, well, don't interrupt me after you complain about me interrupting you. So that is what you said. I asked you why you think it should be federally legal.
Changed what I'm saying.
No, I didn't change what I'm saying. I literally made sure that I didn't
telling you I don't.
I literally made... Oh, dude. Okay, then you're contradicting yourself. If you're now affirming that that's not something that you believe in, now you're contradicting yourself. I asked you why you think it should be federally legal to torture babies, and you told me because you think it's wrong. You were describing your subjective ethics. So in other words, you do think that it is okay for you to use your subjective ethics to advocate for federal law. Now, I just want to clarify, if you are not using your subjective ethics to advocate for this federal law that it should be illegal to torture babies, I'll just go back to the original question. Why do you think it should be federally illegal to torture babies? And by the way, I don't want to hear a single moral claim out of you.
All criminal law and everything that we determine to be a crime is based on morality. It's based on universal consensus morality. That is black letter law. And I don't think I have a Juris Doctorate from Berkeley, so I have a pretty deep understanding of the.
Damn, I'm fucking up some dude with a degree from Berkeley. Holy shit, I'm good at.
But you're really not. That's funny you say that because anybody listening to this knows that you're wrong, and you know you're wrong, and you know you're not wrong.
The gaslighting on point. Win. W narcissist. Okay, listen to this. So now you're saying that it should be federally legal to criminalize babies because it's a universal truth that everybody accepts, right?
What's criminalizing babies? You said I don't know what criminalizing babies is.
Sorry. I misworded myself.
Are you getting a little flustered?
No, I'm not flustered. I just missed. I'll repeat what I said without misspeaking. You said that you think it should be federally illegal to torture babies because you think that a lot of people agree that that's wrong. Is that your claim? Just like in a sentence or less, okay? Because every explanation you've given to very simple questions has been like 5 minutes long. So in a nutshell, what is it? Do you think that it should be federally illegal to torture babies because you think it's wrong? Or do you think that it should be federally illegal to torture babies because a lot of people think it's wrong? Which one?
I think the basis of our legal system is morality. And I think that's codified into the rule of law.
So you're still not answering my question. Do you think that it should be federally legal to torture babies because you think it's wrong? Or do you think it should be federally legal to torture babies because a lot of people think it's wrong? Which one is it?
I think it should be because it's the letter of the law, and that's based on game theory. We have to trust the law over our personal opinions. I do value the body of law over my personal opinion because I don't think that I should be dictator, and I don't think that I should have.
That now you're telling us that you think it should be
illegal. I don't think I should have power over other people.
Okay. So
whether or not I think it should be personally should not be the law.
So now you're saying that you think it should be federally illegal to torture babies because it's the quote unquote letter of the law and something to do with game theory. Okay, so could you expand upon that a little bit? When you tell us that you think it should be federally illegal to torture babies because it's the quote-unquote letter of the law, what do you mean by letter of the law there? Like, what are the more specific motivations?
We honor the law and we honor the societal agreement that we have interpersonally because it allows us to avoid great acts of suffering and violence. Yeah, it's a societal agreement.
Okay,
it's a societal
so
contract.
You're basically saying that. So you're basically saying that it should be federally illegal to torture. You're saying that it should be a federal crime to torture babies because there's a societal agreement that that's wrong?
I think that the entire purpose of putting the law over what we think is personally right is because people do.
We're not going to move on yet. We're still trying to determine why you think it should be federally illegal to torture babies. So
I'm explaining that
you think it should be federally illegal to torture babies.
Stop interrupting me.
You think there's a societal agreement that that's wrong?
I think that it's the same reason why we don't kill each other and steal from each other and rob each other just because it's personally convenient for us.
Wait.
Because
you're not answering
because rather than
yes or no is the reason why you think it should be federally illegal to torture babies because a lot of people think it's wrong. Why can't we get a clear answer from Joe?
Because that's a narcissistic double bind, and I don't feel the need to
wanting
respond to it.
wanting a clear answer is narcissistic?
I'm telling you why I think it should be illegal.
Oh, okay.
I'm
why?
not answering
what
that
is
question.
What is it? Why? Okay, listen. Obviously, I'm just too dumb.
Because the law
Listen.
has determined it to be illegal.
Okay, so you're
That's
saying
why.
that it legally speaking should be illegal because it is illegal. Okay, so I just want to clarify, when child marriage with 12-year-olds was legal, lawfully speaking, they determined that it is legal. So would you say when child marriage was legal, you would say that child marriage should be legal? Or when slavery was legal, you'd say that slavery should be legal, right?
No, what I would say is that
No.
an example of 12-year-old marriage is legal, maybe not in our country, but it's legal in a lot of different places because it's a reflection of the society they live in. And people actually age mature a lot
Okay,
more
well, then we're not asking questions about is.
to have kids at a
We're-
young
we're-
age.
We're not asking
So
questions about is.
It
We're
is
asking
based in a
questions
gray
about-
area. It's a reflection of,
Oh,
it's
I'm
all
getting into
subjective
this
based on
one.
societal standards.
Okay, so you're saying that like societal standards drive these conclusions.
Exactly. That's
Okay.
100%
So
true.
you're saying that like torturing babies should be illegal because society agrees that it's wrong?
That's exactly what the entire letter of the law is.
Okay,
because
no,
the
that's not, I'm not asking you what is.
Aztecs
I'm not asking you what it is.
engaged in
I'm not asking you what it is. I understand that
child
like the letter.
sacrifice.
I'm asking you that the letter of the law, like in a democracy, determines what is illegal based upon like a common consensus. I mean, we're in a functioning constitutional republic. Sure, that is the case. I'm not asking you a question about is. I'm asking you a question about should. Why do you think it should be illegal? Just in a sentence or less, Joe. I've been asking you this question for an hour and you can't answer it. Please return that university degree from Berkeley back. You damned. You wasted
I
your
already
money.
told you.
We have
No.
a college graduate from Berkeley that cannot give us a clear answer to the question of why he thinks child torture should be illegal.
Answered that question several times.
Okay,
I told
what's
you
the
that
answer?
on a personal level, I think that it's morally and ethically wrong.
Okay, great.
But I do not think.
Great. So you think that it should be illegal to torture children because you think it's morally wrong? Is that the response? Yes or no?
I think that people should not torture children, and I think that it should be illegal based on
because?
the adjudication of the law.
Wait,
which is
based upon the adjudication of the law? Okay, so now you're telling us you think it should be illegal based upon the adjudication of the law. What does that even mean?
That means that is established and codified either in the Bill of Rights, in legislation, or through judicial precedents.
Okay, great. So I just want to clarify. You're saying that it should be legal because it is illegal, right?
I'm saying
I just
that
want a yes or no. I just want a
we-
yes or no. I just want a yes or no. You're saying that it should be illegal because it is illegal, right?
I'm saying that if you want to use any other corollary, because you're using one example.
No,
which is
dude, Joe, shut up
torturing
and give me a yes
baby.
or no. Are you saying that it should be illegal because it is illegal?
Abortion. You don't.
No,
see
I'm
that-
not going to allow you to pivot. Are you saying that it should be illegal to
applying
torture
your
children
body of
because it is
ethics.
illegal? Answer the question. Yes or no? Is that your position? Listen,
Okay, so
you're-
do you think?
Okay.
Switch it to abortion.
No, we're not going to switch shit because I want a clear answer. Are you saying that it should be illegal to torture children because it is illegal to torture children? Yes or no?
I'm saying that certain societies decide that it's okay to torture children.
That's not the question that I asked you.
not
I
okay.
asked you why you think
That's
it
not
should be
okay for
illegal.
me.
Saying that certain societies
That's
have
not okay for
adjudicated that
me,
it's okay to torture children
it is okay.
not telling me why you think it should be illegal,
It
Joe.
is.
I'm asking you why you think it should be illegal. Is the reason why you think it should be illegal to torture kids on the federal levels because it is illegal to torture kids on the federal level? Is that the reason why you think it should be legal?
I'm saying that no one individual ethics system should be applied universally.
Okay, then you're not answering the question of why you think it should
because
be illegal.
I don't have to have an opinion on that if I don't want to, and I don't have to tell you because I don't want to go down I'm not going down your tangent.
Wait, so I just want to clarify that now you
I'm
are
trying to have
refusing to
another
engage the debate
discussion
because
with
you're
you.
getting hyped, Joe. Oh, this is an
No.
ego death. This is an ego death that nobody deserves to experience.
crashing-
I understand it, Joe.
Crashing out. Look
dude,
at you.
Yeah, my serotonin is at an all-time high.
Crashing out.
You are getting absolutely wiped. You just said, Dean, I am not going to answer your question. Good job for being a spineless coward.
the fact you need
this
to say
is
that-
great. Everybody,
fact you need to say
tout
that
the
sh-
horns because this is fun.
losing.
So I just
You're
want to.
losing.
There's absolutely no conceivable rational mind
You-
alive that would say that I'm losing this debate. Literally nobody's
You're
takeaway
digging
right
yourself
now
a
is. Literally nobody's takeaway right now is that I'm digging myself a hole. Nobody's takeaway right now is that I'm losing a debate. Every single person alive's takeaway right now is that you are absolutely losing this debate because I've been able to reduce you down to saying that you are literally going to refuse to answer why you think that child torture should be illegal. You got absolutely brain fucked. Like absolute decimation. Like you're back from 100 to 0.
Today
you got absolutely
I've gotten more subscribers from being on here talking to you than I've ever gotten.
I know. Run the gauntlet, bro. Talk about the follows instead of talking about the argument. 110%. That's a sign of you winning the argument. So I just want to clarify: what is the reason you possess?
An appeal to majoritarianism? The group is not right.
So I just want to clarify. So why do you think
flat 5,000 years ago?
Why do you think that child torture should be illegal?
There's no majoritarianism is not an argument that makes you right.
I'm not even making an argument. I'm asking you a question.
That's
this is
what
like
you just
literally like intro to freshman year philosophy. Why do you think? Why do you think that child torture should be illegal on the federal level? What are your reasons why you think that should be illegal?
I've already explained it several times.
No, okay, that's fair. You have. But the first time you explained it, you said that it's because you personally think that it's morally wrong. The second time you explained it, it's because you think that there's a societal consensus that a lot of people think it's morally wrong. And then the third time you explained it, you said it's because there's already a legal precedent. Don't interrupt me, Joe. Don't interrupt me. You're losing. Remember this one. Remember when I interrupted you and you told me that I was losing? You're interrupting me, Joe. Everybody look at me. He's actively interrupting me. He's actively interrupting me right now. He's obviously losing the debate because he's actively interrupting me right now. When I was in the middle of a sentence explaining what his answers were, and how they contradicted one another, he's actively interrupting me right now. As we speak, this is an active interruption. Well, I'd say that the one doing the interrupting is crashing the one out, not the one upholding the boundaries.
You monologue 3 minutes at a time.
I literally spoke for less than 15 seconds.
I've been timing you each time. You interrupt me.
Yo, literally, check this out.
I've been timing it. I have a stopwatch.
Yeah, check this out. I'm gonna go to put the stopwatch on screen while I answer the question.
And let's see how long I can talk.
Joe, buddy, watch this.
You just said that you're right because majority.
Buddy, watch this. Watch this. Listen to what I have to say.
Okay, you've muted me 10 times.
I know because you're interrupting me. Because you start talking when I'm talking. That's not how it goes.
Start the timer now.
Great. I'll start the timer as soon as I start speaking. Joe. Now to go back to what I said. I asked you the question of why you think that child torture should be illegal. You responded by saying that you've already answered that multiple times. I said, yes, right? Joe, you have answered it multiple times. In fact, you've answered it 3 times. And the 3 answers that you've given have been contradictory gibberish that not even a 3rd grader can understand. The first time you answered the question, you said it's because you personally think that it's morally wrong. The second time you answered the question, you said it's because a lot of people think that it's morally wrong and there's a societal understanding. And then the third time you answered the question, you literally said that you think child torture should be illegal because it is illegal. So these are 3 wildly different answers to the question that contradict one another. These 3 answers cannot be true at the same time. So out of the 3 answers you've given, saying that it should be legal because you think it's wrong, it should be legal because a lot of people think it's wrong, and it should be legal because it already is illegal, which one of these 3 answers is your answer? Please inform us.
The discussion that we started having was whether or not abortion should be legalized or illegalized at the federal level. You're trying to pull me into a tangent and question my morality and make it about what I believe personally, which I'm not entertaining. And I'm not going to have that discussion because I don't need to defend my own ethics because I don't think that they should be applied to everybody. So let's talk about that. Why do you think it's okay for a hierarchical system like the federal government to determine what are personal ethical issues? Answer that. Answer that. You can suck us down any trail you want, but answer the opening argument. Thank you.
Welcome back to the Dean Withers Show. Today, we have Joe, who came up here and told us that he thinks I'm a fascist for wanting to advocate for federal legislation to prevent human rights violations because I think the law should be whatever I think is immoral. And then I asked a question that a 3rd grader can ask. I asked Joe if he thinks that child torture should be federally illegal. And he said yes. Joe said yes. And then I asked the follow-up question, Joe, why do you think that should be federally illegal? And then Joe had no clue what to say. Joe got Because if you folks remember, Joe just got done telling me I can't use my moral compass to advocate for legislation. But let me tell you folks, the one and the only tool that every single one of you use when advocating for legislation in reform is your moral compass. Thank you so much for joining my TED Talk today. And in fact, I hope that Joe took a lot away from the TED Talk, because the moment he argued that we should exclude our moral compasses from advocating for legislation, he had no clue how to explain why he thinks child torture should be illegal. And then he spent the next 45 minutes waffling out of his ass